The language learning process is a very, very important thing for beginners to understand, and it's something that isn't actually talked about enough. So that's what we're going to address in this video, a beginner's guide to shoving knowledge into your brain. So what this video is about, many beginners don't realize that actually learning a language it's obviously it takes a long time and it is difficult, but it's actually a very simple thing because there's only a few principles really to getting, that information into your brain and remembering it. So you probably do overcomplicate the language learning process. In essence, like taking things you don't know and shoving them into your brain is basically what the language learning process is, as well as remembering them and using them. That's basically what it is. And a lot of people do overcomplicate that and try and make it harder, and then they don't understand when they have problems, and what they really need to do is just go back to the basics. So this video is an extremely oversimplified guide to help beginners understand this. And yeah, if you're not here for high quality educational content, this probably will be a waste of your time. If you are a beginner and you are looking to improve your language learning, then this video is definitely for you. And yeah, consider subscribing for more of this educational stuff. It does make me feel better about all the work I put in to help you guys for free, but we'll go. So what is the language learning process? The language learning process is very simple. It's how you get a foreign language into your brain, how you see things you don't know in another language, learn them, remember them, and use them. That's literally what it is. And understanding how this actually works is very, very important. That's what we've got on the next slide. And the reason it's so important is that a lot of the problems actually originate from people overcomplicating the language learning process. The language learning process is very simple. You take things and you put them into your brain. If you have a problem, it's likely somewhere along that process you're doing something wrong, i.e. you're not learning properly, you're not revising things is the word I'm looking for, to keep them in your mind and that kind of thing. And we're going to go through all of that in this video. So yeah, you will make unnecessary mistakes if you don't understand this. So that's what I want you to do. I want you to really try and understand this. To optimize your language learning, you might have to watch this video more than once, but ideally, you should have a good understanding after watching it. So explanations are boring. Time for a fun graph of how the actual language learning process works. So up here we start, a foreign language exists. We'll say Italian. You're going to learn Italian and you don't know any of it. So it exists and you don't know what any of the words mean. You read and listen, that's our input, but you don't understand. So you might see words like ciao, come sta, anything like that in whatever language, but you don't understand what they mean, obviously, because you haven't been taught what they are. Step three. You connect, the steps don't really matter, but you connect a foreign word to a word you know. So here I have ciao, that means hi or bye in Italian, equals hi. So you have a word that you don't know, and you either get told or you read somewhere that this means this. So Google Translator doesn't matter. You just understand that a word means this in English or whatever your native language is. You connect them together. You build on that connection. So now that you know what a word means, say ciao means hi or bonjour means hi or anything like that, you're able to use it in a sentence now. You're able to say, hi, how are you? You understand how it kind of connects into speech and how to actually use that word. You don't just know what it means, you're able to actually use it. And then, now that you're able to use it, you can basically speak and write using your knowledge of this word, so it adds to your vocabulary, and then through practice and mistakes, you solidify this knowledge. So you go from not knowing something to first, encountering it, to learning what it means, to building on that connection, having a good understanding of it, to being able to actually use it, and then remembering it. Because obviously you're not going to just remember it straight away. You use it enough times that you're able to put it into your long-term memory. And that is basically the language learning process. And I think you'll find a lot of mistakes, which we will talk about in a second, aren't actually that complicated. They lie somewhere in here or where the arrows are. They lie somewhere in this process where you're doing something wrong. So just a quick example, if I was to think of one off the top of my head, is if you have trouble listening to, like say you're fine with writing, but you struggle to hear people, which is extremely common. I have that as well. Sometimes people speak too quickly, and that problem originates in here, which is you're doing a lot of reading but not enough actual listening, which is why you're not as good at listening, because you just haven't trained your brain to be able to listen fast enough. If you remember back to when you were young, for example, and first learning how to read, you couldn't read very fast and you couldn't read very advanced, and that was literally just because you hadn't done enough of it. And now I presume you're a good reader because you've been doing it for a while. That's the same with listening in that example and countless other examples, which we'll go through some of them. So yeah, that was the kind of fun graph of it. This is literally what it is. So you have an unknown language, you have input, which is reading and listening of new words that you don't know, new concepts, you understand what they are, you make that connection, you know what they are now that you've been taught, and you're able to progress with that connection. Then you have output, which is you can now write and speak in that language as well as read and listen efficiently. And then remember, which is you solidify that knowledge by repetition. That is the, not as fun version of the language learning process. You're welcome to pause that and screenshot that, because that will help you as well. You can screenshot either of these two things. But yeah, so why is this important? The reason this is important, as I've said before, is that this process is the root of almost all language struggles. So I want you to think right now of the number one problems you're having, or just a big problem that you're having with language learning, and just picture it in your head what it is. And I want you to take a look at this and tell me where it lies, or we can do it with the fun one. Take a look at this and tell me where the actual problem lies. So, and I know a problem, what's a common problem I have? A common problem I have is learning things and then not remembering them. So I can say straight away, this problem exists right here. So I can learn new words. For example, I think, what's an example? When I learned Russian animals is probably a good example. I tried to learn them once and then move on straight away. And that was a really big mistake, because learning them once, I could obviously repeat them all after I'd learned them straight away. And then 10 minutes later, I'd already forgotten and I got quite angry. But in actuality, it's not a complicated problem. The problem really is that I've learned them and then I've forgotten them straight away because I haven't practiced them enough. So I can see on this whole language learning process here, the problem exists in here, in that I could write and speak because I had learned them and knew what they meant and understood how to use them, but I just couldn't remember them because I'd forget them straight away. And what I actually needed to do was just practice more and use them. So what I did was I think it was for the next few days at the same time, I just pulled the sheet out, went through all of them a couple of times, put it away, and that was enough over a few days to fully remember them. And now I'm pretty good. I still make mistakes with it, but I basically know a lot of animals in Russian, which is the language I'm learning, because I used repetition. So yeah, that was where a problem I had existed on there. So yeah, you have a look and you tell me, you can pause the video if you want, where a problem you have exists. And it is most likely on here. Obviously, if you have problems like, if your problem is you can't afford to use some kind of resource you want to use, that probably isn't on here. But most problems are on here. So yeah, have a look and figure out where exactly the problem is, and you should be able to come to a solution really quick, which is basically what takes you from the step you're on to the next step. But yeah, a few examples I've got written down here is this is too difficult, can't remember stuff, can't listen, it's too fast, words don't make sense, etc. I've already talked about the can't remember stuff just then. I mentioned the can't listen, it's too fast before. Words don't make sense, I guess that would go in here somewhere. You haven't actually learned what the words mean, which means you just need to invest more time into quality resources. Maybe what you're using to kind of learn new words is not working for you. Maybe you learn better with someone talking to you and explaining it. Maybe you learn better from reading. Maybe you learn better from pictures. It's just different for everyone. So yeah, but understanding the sequence is extremely important for two reasons. One, you can now know the process of putting information into your brain, which sounds silly, but it's actually very, very important, because a lot of people will just go, oh, I don't know how to learn a language, it's so difficult. They look at it as a really, really big monster that they can't slay. And really, it is actually a simple process. You just follow those 6 steps on the screen and you go from not knowing something to knowing it and remembering. You just have to go through that. And the second reason why learning is really important is that you can now identify where your problems might be. So everyone does have problems, but understanding where it is with clarity is extremely important. So if you have a problem and you don't really know how to solve it, it's really irritating, but now you can basically look at this, you can say your problem out loud, you can put your problem where it is, and then you just look at the 2 steps and go, okay, how do I get from this step to this step? And that will be solving the problem. For example, if you know a word and you know the meaning, but you don't know how to use it in a sentence because of word order and that kind of thing, you would be somewhere in here. So you've connected the word to a word you just don't know how to put it in a sentence properly. And what you need to do to get from here to here would literally be just use it more. So you need to read how people use it, and over time you will actually get into your head how to use it, and it's just natural. In Russian, for example, the way to say I have is really weird. You say like, by me there is this, which is a really weird way of saying it, and that kind of messes with me. It did mess with me, it messes with a lot of people, but just literally from just reading sentences and hearing people talk and using that phrase, I just kind of understood now how they use it when they're talking to people, and then it's just in my head, because by looking at it, I'm able to, mimic it, basically. You kind of get it into your head from learning, and that's really how you learn a language in the first place. So yeah, those are the 2 reasons. Stick to this process during learning, stay humble, and you will most certainly make progress. Bottom line, the language learning process is a complex process, but equipped with this understanding that I've just explained, you will be able to make better process. Guys, that is the video. If you do have any questions, please comment down below. I'm happy to answer them all. And yeah, if you do like this content, please subscribe. It does make me feel better about all the work I put in to help you guys for free. But yeah, we do have my website, The Kingdom. I'll have a link in the description for anyone who stayed to the end. You are a legend. I do have free resources I'm working on for a lot of popular languages. It's still being built. But yeah, if you do want to find resources for free to kind of help you with learning, have a look at that. I do offer coaching as well if you wanted to check that out too. And yeah, I do have I don't think I've written it down here, but yeah, I have a Discord as well, link in the description. That's completely free. It's just a language learning Discord for people to talk with each other and help each other out and that kind of thing. So yeah, thank you for watching, guys, and I hope you have a good one.